Hello everyone, welcome back. We'll continue with our lecture. Chapter 5, basically we're going to look at Magneto-Tocque's control. As you can remember, chapter 4 we have covered quite a bit on passive control, especially using gravity gradient. How can you stabilize a particular spacecraft without the use of any electrical energy or other electrical power? So therefore, a gravity stabilization process that we have seen, it's just a matter of how you can actually start tuning your inertia X, Y, Z in order for you to stabilize the satellite. It is a very, I would say, primitive way to stabilize the satellite, and in fact, it is one of the most lowest cost of stabilization. And now, the most important thing is that gravity gradient stabilization will not offer you a very good pointing accuracy. You can go probably about 5 to 6 degrees. That's the best that you can get. And we have also seen that. And practically, there's also undamped movements or other motions that you can't actually get away with. So you wouldn't expect much of fine pointing for a gravity gradient stabilized satellite. If purely you're going to use gravity gradient to stabilize the satellite. Now, slightly a bit more, I would say, I would say precise in that sense, is using an active mode. So for the first introduction, maybe what we're going to discuss is that we're going to use Magneto-Tocque's. What is Magneto-Tocque's? I think you have covered that slightly in your lab experiment, especially for satellite lab. You have covered that, I guess. But anyway, I'll go through the basics of what is actually Magneto-Tocque's all about. So that would actually give you, it is slightly better accuracy as opposed to a purely passive mode or passive way of stabilization. This would be Magneto-Tocque's control would be active control. That means you need electrical power. So therefore you can expect the accuracy is slightly better, in fact, compared to gravity gradient stabilized satellite. Okay, let's go on the basic. Now, we know for the fact that Earth magnetic field, it's always been disturbing us, because we have seen that in chapter 4, where that turn out to be basically a disturbance, an external disturbance disturbing the satellites. Remember, there are 4 disturbances, and one of that is of course a magnetic field. The Earth magnetic field constantly disturbing the satellite. So first of course is aerodynamics. Second is a gravity gradient. Then you have Earth magnetic field disturbing the satellite, and the fourth will be the solar radiation, also disturbs the satellite in terms of its attitude. So what we are doing here is that we know for the fact that Earth magnetic field is indeed actually disturbing the satellite. Now let us think how are we going to use this particular field in order to benefit us. If you can imagine, we know that planet Earth has a magnetic field. Assuming you have another magnet, you bring another magnet to that field, there should be, both fields will be actually reacting. So when the both fields are reacting, obviously the smaller field, that means the smaller object might be actually subjected to the reaction. So you can imagine that two, let's say, permanent magnets we put together, so there will be actually some forces generated between them. So if we can cleverly use that, or cleverly understand the nature of this particular Earth magnetic field, we can actually start inducing a sort of electromagnet in order to react with that actually Earth magnetic field, such that we can induce a particular torque. So the basic is always very clear. So you have 3 axes, or rather 3 components are involved in order for you to have an active magnetic torque. Now, first, basically, you just imagine that you have a satellite, and inside this particular satellite, you have a electromagnet. Okay, you know how basically we do electromagnet. So the electromagnet is, when it's on, it becomes, well, a magnet. So if you don't have electricity, then it just has cables inside, so to say. So assume that what you need to look, right? Assume that I'm going to actually inject some amount of electricity into a coil. Automatically, my magnetic dipole vectors will be there already in this particular rigid body, which is the satellite. So you assume that in a rigid body, in a satellite, I inject electricity, then I will have an electromagnet. Now, the design, if you look at the design of magnetotalkers, or rather magnetic talker, it also comes with both. That means that there's actually a design whereby you have permanent magnet and together with actually the coils. So that means you have a very biased magnetic field, and then on top of it you add with respect to the current that you inject, so to get a bit more magnetic strength, in fact. So having that, you are creating a magnetic dipole in that satellite. Now, this magnetic dipole is going to react with the geomagnetic dipole vector for sure. So you have two fields already. So technically, when you have these two fields, you are actually going to generate a torque. That's the fundamental. So if you look at the amount of torque generated within this body, assume this is a satellite, assume this is planet Earth, the amount of torque generated because of these two magnetic fields are basically nothing but B cross M. And my B is basically my geomagnetic field vector, B, and my M would be my satellite magnetic dipole, which has been generated because of that electromagnet. So you can always use a right-hand rule. So you have the dipole, then you have the torque generated here. So attention, this is actually a vector. It's cross product, this is the vector. So when it's a vector direction, but the actual motion of this particular vector is this way. That means there's a rotation, it's creating a rotation, but this is just a vector. Okay, so you know the satellite will be actually turned or rotated. The rotational motion happens in this direction along this particular axis. So this is a positive direction of this particular vector. I mean the torque vector. Okay, so basically, what I need in order for me to have a torque, I need a permanent magnet or an electromagnet within my satellite. When I have it, when I fly a satellite, it's going to react with the Earth magnetic field, and therefore I can actually end up inducing a torque. And this torque, if I can cleverly do that, I can actually reduce my actual disturbance that we have always actually talked about. Therefore, disturbing the satellite, we can in fact nullify those kind of disturbance. But again, let us see later how effective is that. Now, in order for us to precisely control the satellite, we must know the source of your geomagnetic field. Now, for the satellite itself, it's not a problem because the magnetotalkers or magnetic talkers that we can design, and we know what is the performance of this particular device. But then we also must know what is the magnet outside of the satellite, which is the Earth magnetic field. So therefore, there are basically simple, first of all, there's two models basically. I'm going to introduce to you the simple model. The estimation of the external disturbances. One of the external disturbances was basically the magnetic disturbances of the planet Earth, right? That is being calculated using a simple model. So again, I re-invoke back the simple model. This formulation you have seen before in order for you to calculate your external disturbances. External attitude disturbance for the particular satellite, the same I have actually re-invoked. And basically you have X, Y, Z. Now, if you look at it, geomagnetic field is basically like a dynamo effect in Earth. I think this is basic physics that actually we have learned how planet Earth has its own field. Current flows, it also ionizes the upper atmosphere. Then basically the induction, but the current is actually flowing within the Earth crust. This is very basic how the whole field is actually created. Now, more importantly, please do understand that we have been using the simplified model for your estimation of external disturbances torque. And we are going to use the same model, simplified model, to use to estimate, or rather to estimate the actual torques, or rather actual magnetic fields along your three axes. That means X, Y, Z. So this is basically with respect to local horizontal system that you have. All right, go on. Now, talking about that simplified model, you want a bit more precise model. Remember, we can also, if we start measuring the magnetic field precisely, we can also find the attitude of the satellite. That means we can actually navigate using it. Not only we are using it to control, we use first is that what we are trying to do is that we're using it as another magnet, and using our magnet within the spacecraft to control it, because both this reaction will produce torque using it. But if we only measure the actual magnetic field of the planet Earth, we know exactly the strength at any altitude, any distances, then we should be able to tell you where you are exactly, in fact, in terms of your attitude. So this, in a nutshell, please do understand, this Earth magnetic field does three things to the satellite. It can be a disturbance. In fact, it is a disturbance for low Earth orbit satellites. It is a good news for low Earth orbit satellite, because you can use as one of the important source to control the satellite. Third one, you can use Earth magnetic field as an important source to navigate. That means to do attitude determination, in order for you to know exactly what is your attitude. Okay? In order for you to do the attitude determination, you can't use a simple model. You must have a complex model to do the estimation. So there are two models actually. It's quite typical to be always people use, or rather we use IGRF model, International Geomagnetic Reference Field, the first one. The second one, this is the Canadian Geomagnetic Reference Field. There's two models, but they are quite similar. What actually this model says that is a huge formulation. It looks very simple, but then there is so many other processes that you need to actually go through. The gradient of the magnetic scalar portion V is defined by these functions. So you have a Schmidt function with the Gaussian coefficient. You have a Schmidt normalized, the Lagardère function, and with respect to the actual altitude, you're basically, in fact, radius from one place to another place. That is the difference compared to your simplified model. The simplified model, it gives you an average. It gives you an average. That's actually a simplified model. But a complex model will give you practically on every altitude you will have the differences. But differences that might not be so huge, but it is very important when you do attitude estimation. In fact, bracket determination. So we compare both these models. There's not much of actually a difference that you can see. That is the reason I say that both are quite similar in terms of the answer when you actually start doing the actual calculation. But for bachelor level, I think this is just for your information. You are not expected to calculate this model because it takes quite a huge program to do so. Okay. Now, based on that, technically speaking, when you have all this, let's say it's a flight. It's a flight path. Let's say all three axes are flying. So you will have so much of differences in terms of the actual attitude if you are flying in a different altitude. So this is a very important item when you want to do attitude estimation. But if you want to do attitude control, it's enough basically for us to use the simplified model. So from now onwards, you know that two models are there. Now, since we are going to do attitude control, we can actually pick the simplified model to do the attitude control. Okay, first one is B dot magnetic control. Now, P dot magnetic control is one of those simplest way that you can control the satellite with the use of course, electricity, in fact, your current. Now, what it does is that you switch on the magnetotopers and you let it on, and it keeps on producing the torque, hoping that you can technically, well, reduce the attitude error in coming orbits. And it goes on, it goes on, it goes on, it goes on until you have the error minimized as minimum as possible. Sometimes it doesn't actually go to zero. For example, it continues to evolve because you have external disturbances still disturbing you constantly. So therefore, you will never hit a 0 point with a B dot pointing. All right, B dot pointing. Why it is called B dot pointing? Because you are actually trying to find the actual derivation, or rather the difference between the magnetic field time 1 and time 2, or time 0 or time 1. So the derivatives of the actual magnetic field, that means the evolution of the magnetic field. What it does is this. Okay, the simple process. Magnetometers, I think you have done these magnetometers in your satellite lab, where magnetometers actually can measure the magnetic field. The strength of magnetic field can be measured. So once you can actually measure, okay, you know what is the change in the actual field. It's very simple. So two different devices. Magnetometers is to measure, it's different device. Magnetotopers is basically nothing but an electromagnet, or plus a magnet and electromagnet. Okay. Then you have a state variable filter. This is a bit complex, but again, you just assume that why we need actually this filter. We just wanted to actually find what filter means. Filter means it tells you exactly what is the variation, and after measuring, you need to compare your previous measurement, so that therefore we say that it's actually you're doing a filtering process. In fact, you're doing an estimation process in order to determine what would be the derivative for change in the magnetic field. So there's a process actually for you to do, because you have few readings. Let's say you take, remember when you switch on the magnetometers, let's say that your orbit is about 90 minutes and you have reading for 90 minutes, you got to keep on updating. So there is a huge amount of actually reading. We are just talking about only one axis here as an example, but remember you have 3 axes. So magnetometers, let's say you have all the 3 axes of magnetometers, so you have 3 different readings, and every second, let's say, there is a change. So when there is a change in every second, then you should be having a huge amount of data within about 90 minutes. So therefore, you've got to actually keep on having a filtration process. What is filter is estimation. You have a process, you have an algorithm. But we won't cover this much because this is already in advanced courses. Filter design, for example, people talk about Kalman filter, unsettled Kalman filter, etc. All those actually in advanced courses. Then in fact, a master program or PhD program. But for here, it just said this is actually an estimator who actually estimates the actual change. So once that actually the change is being detected here, so practically the estimation will be actually given. Okay, this will be actually practically is given. So this is a process. So what you have, the estimated of the derivative. So the estimation of the exact derivatives is given. Let me tell you what exactly happens inside here. It tells you this. It has already a model of the Earth magnetic field, an ideal model. Then you have that measurement. The measurement comes in. Then we build that orbit propagator. We compare both, and we know we can estimate what is the difference and what these differences how can these differences can be translated into attitude. That's what actually this will give you. Okay, so this is basically estimated derivative. So once you know, I know I am derived this much. That means I know how much that I have deviated from the real attitude. The real attitude means what? The best is that roll is 0, yaw is 0, and your pitch also is 0. All those actually has to be 0 attitude. So you are perfect. That means perfect pointing. So never. So what exactly you will command the B dot. command the B dot means that you will command the actual differences of the field. So that is the simple reason why it is called a B dot pointing. And it goes on just like that. So command law is done, B dot is given, then the coil actually reads that, look, I need to produce this much of a B field, dipole. It actually commands, that means electricity comes and it energizes the magnetopus, then you produce the dipole. Therefore, torque will be produced. Remember, magnetic dipole from satellite, external, then you produce a torque on the body. This goes on. So if you look at it, it's almost like an open loop system actually. So you are, the command is basically, it's just based on whatever you measure indirectly, and then you start actually commanding. So there is not, it's an, you can assume it's an open loop command, or rather open loop system basically, and you keep on actually commanding, hoping that you can actually reduce the B dot. So when the B dot is 0, that means you don't need any magnetic dipole from the satellite. That means you already have a perfect pointing already. Okay, but it was very, very difficult to achieve that. That is the reason it keeps on actually, you keep on commanding. So if you have one magnetometers along one axis, you can use this algorithm to command that particular axis. If you have 3 axes, you can have 3 B dot commands basically, commanding the whole system. Move on. So the command is simple, B dot control command. You want to have, this is what is given to you, and this is the actual control torque that you need to have. Okay, you have to have a C. C is basically the control gain, and this control gain we should be able to actually start tuning it based on the exact B field that you have. This is a bit on analysis that we need to do so that we can choose the right gain. So it's a very simple, look, it's a very simple, straightforward commanding process. So it's not complicated at all. So B dot pointing is one of those, or B dot commanding is one of those actually very, very basic, very simple way to actually to control the satellite. Therefore, if you look at the exact command, okay, if you look at it, now this is why B dot happens, because there is a change in the spacecraft. That means there's a change in the exact motion of the spacecraft. When this is 0, you don't need any B dot. But when you have omega, that means that the angular rotation of all these axes, that means there is an attitude error, then you will end up having a B dot. So once it's estimated, you inject into that actually command, then you have already the control, I would say control system, which is actually producing, or rather producing the torque. Now, in order for us to calculate the control gain, the constant, in fact, it's a very simple way we can actually do. We have these two values already, estimate and then B dot, and this is C basically that I've said. This is supposed to actually give us, there should not be any derivatives in the kinetic energy. So when there is no derivatives in the kinetic energy, that means that kinetic energy derivation is actually almost 0. When it goes to 0, practically what it says that there is no change in that motion of the spacecraft. So when you do this analysis, so you will actually start adjusting this control gain in order for you to get a very stable condition. Almost 0. We can't say exactly 0. Almost 0 when there is no change. That means your desire is that there won't be any energy, kinetic energy build-up. There should not be. Okay, it should be constant. When it is constant, so practically your motion is actually very constant. So it's a simple stability, Luknoff stability. I think in control engineering, you might have actually been exposed to root locus, etc., and both analysis that you have done. But another way actually, Luknoff also is quite commonly done. Right. Alright, now if you look at B dot magnetic control, it is just like what I've explained just now. It is a constant pointing. It's a constant talking, so to say. So what exactly happens? This is considered one cycle. I sense, I generate dipole, I have torque. I sense, I generate I have B dot, then I can actually have the control torque, or generate dipole, then I can have the control. So this is considered measure, control, measure, control, measure, control, measure, control. You don't see a closed loop here. I think when you do a control system, we know that there is a closed loop, etc. We talk about, but here is considered open loop system, open loop command, measure, command, measure, command, measure, talking, measure, talking. That is considered one cycle. So if you have the whole cycle will be actually consists of the total cycle consists of the sensing time, talking time. That means the torque that actually you induce to the spacecraft. And it goes on, goes on, goes on, goes on. If you look at the actual missions, let's say the mission is actually for 2 years, it will keep on going for 2 years or more. There is no time actually, it is going to be zero and stop. If this process stops, no stopping, that means what? Practically your satellite is perfectly pointing, and it is impossible in that sense with this kind of process. All right, cool. Now, 3 axis. Now, if you look at that, we don't see much of analysis in terms of the equation of motion that we have developed. In chapter 4, in fact, we have seen very clearly that equation of motion that we have developed for spacecraft dynamics, which is the Euler equation, the linearized Euler equation, is very, very important, in fact, to look into the stability of a spacecraft. Now, if you look at the B dot, we don't dwell with that equation. So, which means that the precision of a B dot pointing is not very accurate. Why? Because the plant in a control system, we know that we have to define the plant carefully if you really want to have a good control. So therefore, in our case, the plant means what? The actual dynamics of the satellite. We have already developed that. We have already have that. Yeah? In chapter 4, we have already seen the Euler equation. We have already seen the RPY equation, roll, pitch, and yaw equation. How the top compartments are there. We have already have that dynamics. It's a two-order system, basically second order system. Okay, we have already that. So what we want to do is that now, can I use this magnetic torques combine with those equations and start maybe doing a bit more precise control? Yes, I can. When I look at a 3-axis attitude control system, I have these options. Now, again, let's see. Geomagnetic field. So geomagnetic field, that is very simple. We are bound to Earth magnetic field. Okay. We must have that. There's an input. We have a control structure, actuator as a magnetic torques. Then the 4 external disturbance that you have learned in chapter 4 comes into the play here. Although you need the magnetic field to help you to control, the magnetic field are also same time disturbing you also. Don't forget that. So you have that. Then we have another control. For example, we have learned also gravity gradient. We can use that to also to dampen the actual attitude errors. So we can use that. So we know for the matter, it can actually help us with the roll and pitch control, roll your control, and then pitch can be also dampened in that sense. But again, it is not as good as active control always. Attention to be given to momentum bias. Momentum bias we will cover in chapter 6. Okay, it's another way to control the satellite. Obviously, a bit more precise compared to fully magnetic control. Alright? So likewise, you have satellite dynamics, you have a gravity gradient, you have a momentum bias. In fact, this is we are going to cover in coming chapter 6. So then you have a sensor sensing up all those attitude. You have a referent attitude. What is our referent attitude? Our referent attitude will be always 0. Hopefully we can get 0, 0 roll, 0 pitch, 0 yaw. That means perfect pointing is great. This can be a very good, I would say a scheme of control options that we have for a low cost options. But we will actually define this. So based on that, this is what we have. Let us see how can we do a 3-axis attitude control based on the knowledge that we have already, which is the B dot using a magnetotalkers. So let us actually use this for a 3-axis control. Go on. Now for a 3-axis control, same approach. Okay, same approach. Magnetic field, and then basically your dipole. Okay, dipole of Earth magnetic field, dipole of the satellite's magnetic field that you have, that you generate. So cross product. All right, and you can imagine if I have one, then I should have one. I need to treat only one equation. But if I have 3 axes, I need to have 3 components for sure. So I have a Tx, Ty, and Tz. Okay. So now, more importantly, let's see that exact curve. Okay, this is that what? This consists of a magnetic core and coil and the angular magnetic field. This is even if you have 1, 2, or 3 magnetotalkers, same process. It is basically electromagnet. Job is basically to produce magnetic field in the spacecraft. What we do when we start actually controlling it, what we do, we know by having the B dot, basically we know for the fact that how much actually we should be injecting, how much current we should be injecting inside, so that the electromagnet can become a magnet. Well, I would say the needed, it can produce the needed strength of magnetic field, so that you can react with the Earth magnetic field. Gone. All right. Now this is a simplified version. We are not going to discuss much about the derivations of this. What I've given you is a very simplified motion. First 2 motions are basically roll yaw motions. By now, I don't need to actually write roll, yaw, pitch. By looking at the symbols, you already know what axes we are talking about, because we have defined that already. So if you look at this, this basically talks about roll and yaw motion. So roll motions are there. Basically the angular rate of the roll and angular I would say acceleration of the roll is also specified here. It is in the space form. Now don't forget, this is been developed also using the actual Euler equation of motion. You have a coupled roll and yaw motion. You have decoupled the pitch motion. So you have T torque in roll, torque in yaw, torque in pitch, RPY. So therefore, and then in order for you to I've given you this sigma x, sigma y, sigma z. Basically, this when you depending on the exact inertia, the value goes in here for you to basically get the actual command. All right. Now, remember this. The actual torque that you see consists of actually 2 components. One is the disturbance torque and another one is the control torque. Here, this one. Always remember, if you look at our equation of motion, on our right side, there's always a torque. And the torque is a global torque. It consists of 2 components, control and the disturbance. If both are actually equal, that means equal means like both cancel each other, you will have 0, right? When you have both are basically net values are 0, technically you have 0 and you have 0, you have a perfect pointing. You will have a perfect pointing. Yeah, you don't have to worry much about controlling the satellite anymore. So remember this. All these are basically has always have two components here. Go on. Now, if I expand that, because I have already in the state space, I expand that, it gives you a very beautiful equation on my top along roll, top along pitch, top along yaw. Technically, all these values can be found by estimation. Now, attention need to be given to this value Kp, Kd, Kp, Kd, Kp, Kd. Okay? Kp stands for proportional controller and Kd is derivative controller. So if you know that, we have learned in control engineering, it is a PD type controller has been actually used here as an example for you. Alright? Again, don't worry much about the equation. You can plug this into basically MATLAB or what, then you can calculate this easily. That's a very, very straightforward equation. Okay, go on. The performance, a typical performance you will have, MZ, My as a torque basically, okay, torque along roll, pitch and yaw, and the actual dipoles basically based on the orbit that you have. Okay, many dipoles. Right, go on. Assuming that I give you an example, a typical performance of a particular satellite. These are the parameters and the typical values that you can expect for these sorts of actually satellite. Okay, and if you look at the tuning of the values of, this is important, the gains. Gains. This is important basically to get to where the performance are. So go on. Let me see the performance here. So if you look at the performance here, no matter we do a good, I would say, active control. So this actually is what happening. To create a torque along X, to create a torque along Y, pitch, and yaw, we need basically controllers. That means the proportional and the derivative controller, PD controller. And PD controller is torquing, and then I produce the torque here. So if you look at actual performance, I have three axis control here. In fact, this is also called as XYZ, Thomson. Why we see the Thomson? If you say that actually a Thomson control, active control, okay, you know for the fact there are three magneto-torquers involved, XYZ torquers, torquing basically to produce the torque to reduce the actual external disturbances. So if you look at it, it is not very interesting in terms of the actual performance. If you look at it, so what I'm saying is that sometimes it also looks so simple. I should be actually getting all these good results, you know, because I'm having a 3 active control. I should be having a good result. No, it's not necessary. Sometimes you won't actually, based on that particular satellite. If you look at it, we have not a very good pointing accuracy. You see 6 degrees, and then you look at yaw is almost uncontrollable. That means the yaw axis is actually rotating already. But still, as I've said before, you can allow the roll to the yaw to actually to rotate because you are still actually pointing towards planet Earth. But the amount of rotation is quite high if you look at it. So it's rotating quite hard. So we need to address this problem. So therefore, we have actually there is always a need for us to think that how can actually we overcome, how can we provide the satellite with a very good control, better than this what you see. How can we do this? So that we will cover in chapter 6. Now if you look at this XYZ Thomson, this says that your magneto-torquers is along x-axis, your magneto-torquers is along y-axis, your magneto-torquers is along z-axis. Your magneto-torquers along y-axis, if you have a magneto-torquers at y-axis, you can only control pitch and yaw, which means you cannot control roll. Okay? Magneto-torquers along y-axis. Y-axis is your pitch axis. Your pitch axis can only control roll and yaw. Because why? It has to be perpendicular to that particular axis. That means that whole axis has a torque along it. It cannot induce any torque along that particular axis. So it always perpendicular. Z, which is the yaw, is going to have a roll and pitch control, not yaw control. Alright? Okay, go on. I think we have covered this